Right now, India got smacked hard by Pakistan. It's winning a battle is one thing, but winning the war is another. If India cuts off the water from Pakistan, it's a disaster. The Pakistanis themselves, they said, look, canceling the water treaty and cutting off water from Pakistan is an act of war. Okay, so what are you doing about it? The world stage is not for the weak, and Pakistan is weak. It's weak by decision of its leadership.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to i3 Pulse. Today we're going to speak about, will Pakistan strike India back? We have two nuclear-armed states. We'll also be talking and uncovering the hidden hands behind these conflicts today on i3 Pulse. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
So, Sheikh, a lot of things been happening, right? We have the Pahalgam attack on the Indian-occupied Kashmir on April 22nd. India blames Pakistan. Then India strikes Pakistan with some targeted airstrikes in May 6th, which is yesterday. And then the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, said India will have to suffer the consequences. Now, is this the start of a potential nuclear war in Asia?
Well, nuclear war, inshallah, not, hopefully. But let's try to understand the situation. Look, the number one thing that every viewer needs to understand is, from a political analysis perspective, these type of attacks are very hard to decipher who have done them. It becomes more of like a network of analysis to understand, like, okay, what's possible, what's not possible, what's operationally viable, what's not, who has the capability, who has the intent. It becomes just that type of analysis. Now, with the way the Indian side of Kashmir, or at least the Indian controlled side of Kashmir, it has a large number of Indian soldiers and a high ratio between army personnel to civilians, right? Yeah. Like the numbers are 1 to 17 or 1 to 20. And that makes it very difficult for really Pakistan to infiltrate that area. But is it still possible? It is possible, very low chance. But that being said, are the Pakistanis basically, are they doing this type of infiltration? No. Things really stopped since 1999 with Musharraf. He kind of dismantled all these groups, and they turned all that off. And we've heard the defense minister of Pakistan, and he was interviewed by Sky News. Yes. So the defense minister, as we can see here on the screen, clearly said that we've been doing this on behalf of the United States.
But you do admit, sir, that Pakistan has had a long history of backing and supporting and training and funding these terrorist organizations.
Well, we have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain. I personally and our government also in the last 2 days, we have condemned it categorically, without any reservation, that terrorism in all its forms is something which should be condemned as strongly as possible. This is something Pakistan has been victim of terrorism for decades, and perhaps no other country in the world has suffered so much from terrorism as Pakistan, because of the wars in Afghanistan in the 80s, and then in the previous decade and decade before that.
Like, the guy comes and says, basically, yeah, we were doing these. It's crazy. Wow. Like, it's actually crazy. And for Britain. So he mentioned the United States and Britain. He caught the news anchor by off guard. So Pakistan historically did such acts. Stopped in around 1999, from what we understand, because these groups have been dismantled. So it's not. It's less likely that Pakistan does this, right? The second thing is basically the intent. What is the intent? What is Pakistan's intent in doing this? As you can see right now. So let's stop right now, basically, a little bit, and come now to the situation. The situation right now is de-escalation. If Pakistan did this, what's the objective? Okay, you see what I'm saying? The India does have an objective. The Indians have an objective of sadly creating this situation to say we're going to pull out of, so they have an excuse to pull out of the Indus Water Treaty, the Indus River Water Treaty. So the Indians do have a cause, and that's why, from a probabilistic perspective, we can say that the Indians were behind us, more likely, okay, let's say 70-80% than Pakistan. Okay, that being said, did the Pakistanis know about it? Probably the Pakistanis knew about it because the Americans would have been notified, and then the Americans would notify the Pakistanis. And this whole thing this whole thing happened when J.D. Vance actually visited India.
Exact, like literally just almost same time it was there.
Yeah, same day. Exactly,
My
exactly.
goodness.
So, and the Pakistani information minister, was on Twitter and in TV saying basically we have intelligence that the Indians are going to strike us in, I think he said 24 to 72 hours, right? Whatever the number was. So the Pakistanis had intelligence that these things were going to happen. The other thing is now basically the geopolitical and the geopolitics of Southeast Asia, right? So the Chinese are in support of the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis welcome Chinese support, especially from an economic and military assistance. So they transfer technologies, selling them basically weapons. The JF-17 was manufactured by the support of the Chinese, and they helped the Pakistanis basically, locally and domestically build most of it, right? So that was long years ago, right? So now they have lots of those, around over 150, 170, I think, if I'm not mistaken, of these JF-17s. They're fourth gen, fighter jets, single engine, But and then the Chinese also gave them recently in 2022 the J-10Cs. Those are 4.5 gen. It's a better plane, and they gave them around 2025, and it seems they're going to be ordering more.
Well, they were tested out, right? Just
They used them,
yesterday.
I think they used them yesterday, and and the Indians basically in return they bought the Rafales from France, $9 billion deal, right?
Yeah.
And the Chinese gave them basically a good, long range missiles.
Pakistan, the missiles.
Pakistanis, yeah, they gave them basically some of the missiles. Not even they're saying basically not even the export version. But anyway, so they used that technology to really hit back at India. So India basically hit Pakistan, and I think 26 hits in multiple locations. They hit a masjid. They killed lots of civilians. But from the beginning, the Indians said, "Look, these hits are not for. It's just a retaliation to what happened, right? To the false flag operation they did, right?" And they said from the beginning, "Look, this is not. We're not trying to escalate.
And we're not
just
trying to hit military sites.
and we're not trying to hit any military sites and so forth. Even though it seems there's some sensitive areas basically were hit also from a. But see, the Indians want to get out of this treaty. This treaty with Pakistan is a chokehold. This water treaty with Pakistan, canceling it literally puts Pakistan in a chokehold, to India, right, or by India.
And on this water treaty, Sheikh, like this, Pakistan is in a very tough spot right now. Like they could really crumble, right? They're overwhelmingly dependent on the Indus River system. Like if you look at the agriculture, it's nearly 90% of its agriculture, which employs 40% of its labor force and 90% of the GDP. This is based on the irrigation from Indus and its tributaries, right? And there's and many more usages of the water. So I mean, why would Pakistan kind of facilitate or even be or even allow themselves to be in a position where India can just pretty much just put them in a chokehold? And how can they get out of it?
Well, so this is the problem. This is the problem, basically, that sometimes we think these deep questions have, grandiose answers. The silly thing about today's world is that sadly, the leadership of Pakistan is not as sincere to Pakistan and the Pakistani people, and most importantly to Islam, right? The Pakistani leadership, sadly, is very sincere to their own personal interests. That's the only reason. There's no. Pakistan has the manpower, the ability to basically punch back and smash India. To be honest, the Pakistani Air Force is way better than the Indian Air Force. Sure, they have numbers. Who cares about numbers? They downed 3 planes in basically like a couple of hours. The Pakistani army, with the support of the Chinese, can literally obliterate the Indian Air Force fully. You see what I'm saying? Pakistan is a capable nation. Okay, it's a very strong nation. India, on the other hand, basically has 300 million Muslims inside. They tried to make it 250, but even the numbers are maybe up to 400 million. They have 400 million Muslims inside. They have the Khalistanis, the Sikh movement, separatists in India. They have many different ethnicities in the south, basically with the Tamils, and so the India is not homogeneous. Pakistan is all Muslim, right? So 99% of Pakistan are Muslim. Maybe a little bit less than 99, but there's a little bit of Christians, a little bit of this, but let's say 95, whatever, 96, 97, whatever the number is. But it's a homogeneous country. It just needs a sincere leadership. Pakistan does not have sincere leadership, and therefore protecting its own national interest is sadly is not there. It's not a top priority. This is the fact of life. If you look at Pakistan since 1947 and until now, this is really what happened. The Pakistanis are in cahoots, not even in cahoots, basically. Out in the open. The defense minister gave it out, right? Like they served the United States by even committing, crimes, sadly, sometimes against civilians, their own civilians, inside Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Kashmir, even mostly against Muslims in Kashmir. But for whose benefit? For the United States and Britain, as the defense minister said himself. Like, there's no more analysis needed. We've been saying this for 30 years, 40 years, but sadly now people understand what's going on and things are coming up to the open.
Will Pakistan be forced, to go to war? I'm just trying to think right now. If you're put in a chokehold and you're pretty much in a very bad situation, what options does Pakistan have except to actually go and escalate this, or just to wait around and just die out slowly?
Yeah, to be honest, basically, Pakistan right now, basically with this Indian chokehold from water perspective, look what happened to Bangladesh. The floods, yearly floods, basically. India, they flood Bangladesh all the time. So if this happens, look, fresh water is needed basically for drinking, for agriculture, for manufacturing, right? So the water is really needed. If India cuts off the water from Pakistan, it's a disaster. And the flooding, the continuous flooding, destroys all the crops, destroys the whole economy, destroys at least a good portion of the economy. So Pakistan have they have to basically have a strategy to deter India from doing that, and that could basically take diplomacy, could take military form, could take economic form, could take many different forms. But there has to be a strategic plan, and Pakistan does not have one because it's not interested in creating one in the first place. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So is there a plan? There's no plan. What happened right now, basically, the Pakistanis, they just need to save face. As I said, basically, they already knew that such an incident is going to happen. It was executed by the Indians, most likely. The Pakistanis knew, and now the military in Pakistan has a higher rating, amongst the people. They downed 3, Indian aircrafts. Who cares?
5, now it's 5, I think, or something.
Well,
like that.
maybe the number went up. There's a drone. One of them maybe is a drone or whatever.
True.
But let's say whatever it is, 3 to 5 planes.
Yeah.
And they hit back basically a headquarters, a brigade, or whatever it is. Again, this is what they're saying. Did they really hit it? Maybe let's say they did, but that's all what they did. The Chinese are pushing the Pakistanis to do so. But right now things are going to de-escalation. So what did the Pakistanis win with that, except basically some claps? We're not saying it's not a victory for the Pakistanis. It's winning a battle is one thing, but winning the war is another. The Pakistanis themselves, they said, look, canceling the water treaty and cutting off water from Pakistan is an act of war. Okay, so what are you doing about it? I hope that basically there's a little bit better, more at least nationalistic sentiments, at least. Like when Pakistanis come and say Pakistan Zindabad, I'm like, I hope basically at least some in the establishment has that emotion. It's not just for public consumption, which is sadly mostly is. And India right now basically is in a weak position, really, and the Pakistanis are not utilizing that. That being said, let's get into the geopolitical side of things, right? There's this triad: Pakistan, India, China, is something that's been in being studied for a long time, right? The Americans, when they came in and recruited China, they knew that China was going to get big enough, so they wanted to counterbalance China. The only country that can counterbalance China in the whole Asia Pacific is India.
So this is when America used China against the Soviets, and then now they're thinking of who they can use against China afterwards as well.
Yeah, but this has been decades. It's not like something yesterday. It's been at least 3 decades.
Yes.
So that's why the Indians, and that's why you see lots of Indians in the government, the U.S. government. The Indian lobby in the United States is only second to AIPAC, to the Israeli lobby.
Yes.
there's now books written about it.
Yes.
The RSS movement, the extremist terrorist movement in India that basically kills people, slaughters people just for eating beef and so forth. They have a wing, a political wing inside the United States.
In fact, even after the Gujarat riots in 2002, where all these Muslims were slaughtered under Modi's watch, he was banned from the U.S. for 10 years. And the person who actually helped fix his image was Tulsi Gabbard, who was the director of national intelligence in the U.S. right now. So they're very, as you said, like people don't know that they're very integrated into the U.S. and have a big lobby.
Yeah, why? Because the United States needs India to basically face off with China. So we need to understand that India is the proxy to the United States in this battle with China.
So, but Sheikh, okay, you're saying this, but the defense minister of Pakistan is saying that they did all this stuff for America, right? So now, if America is using India, then and then China is working with Pakistan, but then Pakistan helped the U.S. against the war on terror and different things. Like, where are the alliances? It seems very confusing.
It is very complicated. So, but Pakistan is not allied with the Chinese. The Pakistanis are very true to the Americans. The Chinese have been trying to pull Pakistan to their side for decades now. Hasn't been working. Okay, and that's why basically the Pakistan, but also the United States, basically after the Soviet Union was gone, right? They neglected Pakistan, and because it's a Muslim country, they don't want a Muslim country to be strong anyway in the first place. So they didn't give them the whole issue with the F-16. They didn't give them the F-16. They paid, the Pakistan paid for the F-16s. They didn't get. They're just rusting in the Nevada desert. So the Pakistanis are fully subservient to the United States. Benazir Bhutto and the PPP are historically have been basically working with the British. And at that time, maybe 30 years ago, 35 years ago, maybe even 40 years ago, whatever it is, there was a scrimmage between the PPP and the American Nawaz Sharif and the Musharrafs and so forth. At the end of the day, same thing with India, by the way. The Congress Party are also historically British, because at the end of the day, it's called British India for a reason. Like Britain invaded India in 1817 and took over the whole thing by 1846. So they really solidified their rule there. So there are lots of families, high-class families in both countries that are actually clients and agents for the British Empire. The Americans came in, and the BJP party, and the current military junta in Pakistan, they both now they're more subservient to the Americans. The Pakistanis are so staunch at staying with the Americans that many offers by China were rejected by the Pakistanis. But what happened is because of the neglect of Americans to the Pakistanis and the preference given to India, and since India and Pakistan are actually arch rivals for a long time, there's the Pakistanis now start to basically say, look, let's basically be 70-30, 80-20. Give it 20-30 to the Chinese and 70 to the Americans, right? So that's why the Chinese don't even invest in Pakistan a lot either, because they're not giving them what they want. The Chinese want the Pakistanis to be subservient to China, and they're not. At the same time, the United States, because they want to use Pakistan and India, see, India alone cannot basically handle China. The whole idea since Brzezinski's time is to have, and Kissinger, is to have India, Pakistan together against China. So China knew this. That's why it's trying to pull Pakistan towards it. India cannot basically face off with China, Pakistan. Cannot do that. But the Pakistan-India alliance can basically kind of push on China. The Americans have one problem, two problems. Number one is that this rivalry between India and Pakistan has to basically die, and they worked hard for that, and that's why Musharraf, in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, basically let go of the issue of Kashmir, and they're like, let's look forward, and also Nawaz Sharif was part of it and so forth, and before that. And they tried to settle the issue of Kashmir, right? So it's not talked about anymore and so forth. Number two is basically they cannot empower Pakistan. They want to keep Pakistan in a very vulnerable position because that's an Islamic country. They don't want an Islamic country to be strong. This is American foreign policy. These are rules basically. They can't break that. So the Pakistan became disadvantaged, which is why basically they started looking towards China a little bit. So this is the configuration.
So there's a few, this is very interesting, and I want to run by some theories just similar to what you said, and maybe some different perspectives, right? So a few people are creating have a theory, right, that the United States is using India right now to lure China into a proxy war, right? And then others, like for example PBD, Patrick Bet-David, is saying that this is a ploy from China. This is from China to stop America from moving its manufacturing over to India. So what do you think? What do you think about those two theories?
Well, no. See, PDB just doesn't know much. This guy is just like a character. Like there's not much manufacturing in Kashmir. Kashmir is a war zone, right? There's tourism and stuff. Manufacturing is somewhere else in India, so that's not gonna. But a war could affect it. Yes, you know what I'm saying. But as you can see, there's de-escalation. So if Pakistan was really with China, and China actually is, if China was an agent if Pakistan was an agent for the Chinese, they would have escalated further. And the Chinese promised the Pakistanis, like, we're behind you, just go and smash as much as you want. It didn't happen. But again, the Pakistanis were basically, again, balancing U.S.-China relationship. That's all.
And for the viewers, what do you mean exactly by the word agent? Let's say if Pakistan's an agent for the U.S. or it could be an agent for China, like those.
So smaller countries basically they create a relationship, they accept a subservient relationship with the global power, right? That's how it works. Like if you don't have a big brother behind you, you get beaten up by everybody else. So every small country will need to choose somebody to serve for them to continue to exist on the map. You see what I'm saying?
The whole thing about now Pakistan and India, but this whole theory about getting Pakistan and India to work together against China, is that even possible? Because Pakistan and India have so much issues between them, especially with the rise of the US is emboldened and working with the BJP. BJP just want to eviscerate Pakistan.
Yeah, so that's why basically...
And genocide even.
Yeah,
genocide.
So at one point in time, basically, the Americans said, screw Pakistan, we're just going to go with India all in, right? But we just need to neutralize Pakistan, that they don't support China fully, and so forth. So a limited war could basically hurt China, definitely. Like a war at the doorsteps of China could hurt the Chinese economy, the Chinese state in general, getting even China pulled in to protect Pakistan. All this is possibilities. These are good possibilities. Okay, they're not happening right now because the escalation is what's happening. The other thing is basically the way to compete with China is also on an economic basis. That's why there's a tariff war. It's a Cold War. Like right now, this is a second Cold War between the United States and China, right? There was a Cold War between the Soviet Union and the United States, and the U.S. came victorious. Now there's a second one. Let's see who's going to come out victorious. But part of it is moving some of the manufacturing base into India. At the end of the day, the Indians and the Chinese are natural rivals. Okay, they share a border. There's already problems at the border. There's discrepancy at the border.
Oh yeah, there's those videos, right, where because they have the treaty where they can't bring guns in certain areas, so they just smack each other with sticks and they kill soldiers. Are killing
there's areas that are not agreed upon, right?
Yeah,
like each one's claiming areas. So and also basically they're economic rivals. They each one wants to grow. The United States chose China in 1971. And India was like, yo, what about me? What about me? And then, now is their time. So the United States will use that to further basically build India against China. But they need to make sure that if India gets big, it's not going to also get out of, it's not going to be another genie that leaves the bottle and get out of their control, just like the Chinese did. You see what I'm saying? Like imagine basically the United States now invests in India to become very big, and the Indians basically give the United States the hand. And they make a deal with the Chinese to control Southeast Asia. So, as you can see, but again, I don't think this is going to happen. The Indians and the Chinese are at each other's throats, and the United States will continue to basically fuel this hatred. And the BJP party was really, sponsored by the Americans and supported, at least. It's not sponsored by the Americans. It's their preferred. And then as you can see, the American government is super pro-India.
Is this, we saw that the French fighter jets, right, versus the Chinese fighter jets, and the French fighter jets has got pretty much destroyed. Some are saying also there's a PL-15 air-to-air missiles that the Pakistanis use against the Indian Air Force. And we see that there's a bump in the Chinese with defense stocks, right? Now, could China be winning here in the sense that they used this whole situation, they benefited from it rather, to validate their superior weapons and technology?
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. Like basically, like the PL-15s or BVR, they're like beyond visual range. They struck those planes. They really made fun of the French manufacturing real bad. It's like the Pakistanis tested the J-10Cs with the PL-5s and smashed these planes like so quickly and so easily. It's not even funny. So, and that's why the Indian right now the Modi has a big problem. Like India got smacked hard by Pakistan. This like right now, India got smacked hard by Pakistan. It's a win to the Pakistanis. Okay, this is a win to the Pakistanis. Nobody can deny that. Okay, and he has a big popular base right now to control because they're screaming revenge.
Oh my God! Yes.
So Moody's in big trouble from that perspective.
Yeah. So, Sheikh, there may be some viewers. Most of the viewers probably know what's going on with whole India, Pakistan, and Kashmir, right? And then there are other viewers who are like, "What the heck? What's happening with Kashmir? I didn't even know there's a whole dispute there. Like, what led to this, and why is this a conflict that just seems this disputed territory just seems to just cause so much issues?"
Yeah. Well, see, this is again the one word answer to this is colonialism, right? The Muslim Ummah has been colonialized for over 200 years. It started with Britain invading India in 1817, and specifically in 1846, they demarcated certain states in a specific way, and the area of Kashmir had a Hindu landlord that ruled over the whole area, right? So they gave him. In 1846, they gave Kashmir to that landlord, and since then, basically, they rented him that for 100 years, and but Kashmir is this a Muslim majority area, right? And what happens basically by the time when Pakistan split from India, based upon a British plan, really, to be honest, in 1947. The British gave the Kashmir to India, not to Pakistan, even though it's supposed to be because it's majority, it's supposed to go to Pakistan, and because the people wanted to go to Pakistan, or basically be part of Pakistan, and then after that, basically by a year or two, the United Nations, creates a resolution and says that actually the right thing to do is for the Kashmiris to have a plebiscite and to choose if they want to join Pakistan or India. But since then, nothing happened. And this is what I said basically when Musharraf and the Pakistan leadership in the early 2000s, they dropped this whole right. And that's why basically the Muslims in Pakistan need to understand that Pakistan let go of Kashmir. I think in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So they let go of Kashmir, and then the United States basically pushed this whole bilateral talks. Okay, so Musharraf basically accepted this, like, okay, forget about this plebiscite, forget about the United Nations resolution, forget about even the human rights, United Nations human rights, a right for the right for self-determination, right? So they pushed all that on the side, and this is the treacherous leadership of the Pakistani army back 20 years ago. And what do you mean by bilateral talks? Talks about what? What are we going to talk about? I mean, the people want to join Pakistan. They are the majority, and they're supposed to basically there's supposed to be a plebiscite. There's supposed to be a vote where people want to be, but you're not allowing that. You're actually, dominating and colonializing a whole area, a whole region that's not yours. But again, sadly, this whole thing is the Kashmiris were sold out by the Pakistani leadership, and this is the reality today. And as long as we, as an ummah, don't understand that we need that our leadership is the one that decides our fate, our future, our present, and if we have an insincere leadership, or uncaring even leadership, or even incompetent leadership, even if you're sincere but incompetent, this will destroy us as a nation. And we must have a demand that our leaders be sincere and competent. Qawiyun Amin, as Allah says in the Quran, basically. Sincere or trustworthy and competent. But this is what we don't have, not in Pakistan and many other places, not just Pakistan alone. This is not, even though today's episode about Pakistan, but this is not just about Pakistan. Sadly, it's a reality in many other Muslim countries.
Sheikh, I guess the last thing I wanted to wrap up with here, just to draw this episode to a close, is you see that there is even some statements from Muslim leaders, few in India, that are like praising India and the strong support for India. And you see the pressure that the Indian government, the BJP, is doing by, and it could be the next genocide, right, of the population of the Muslims there. And at the same time, you have Saudi Arabia, UAE giving Modi the biggest highest civilian honor, and all this stuff. Do you foresee, like, what is next for the Muslims in India? Will it get significantly worse? And like,
Well, the genocide have begun. Like the genocide has begun. The small numbers and killings and slaughter and also what the Waqf bill that basically was passed by the Indian government. The Waqf bill, which was just I think ratified last month, it's been challenged right now. But the purpose of that is to take over all the awqaf, or have control over all the Waqf means basically these non-profit.
Endowments, right?
Endowments
Islam,
that's been there for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
The Indian government was to take over these awqaf.
Graveyards, mosques, shops, schools,
Everything,
so
a
many
million things.
Yeah.
There's like, it's
Adds up
billions
to
and billions of dollars.
15 billion.
Yeah.
And,
And that's in India, it's a big thing.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So the Muslims in India are in a very, very tough position, and that's why their lives are in the neck, and the ones who are liable for the lives of the Muslims in India is the Pakistani leadership, and that's why Pakistanis don't have this leadership. Sadly, is not planning strategically. They have 250 million, let's say, population in Pakistan. There's another, let's say, 350 million in India, and there's another, let's say, 200 million in Bangladesh. That's how much is that? That's 800 million. That's close to 1 billion people.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? We didn't count all the other Muslims also in the subcontinent, in Sri Lanka and others. And the Muslims are almost 1 billion people in India, a little less, let's say. But but who's leading these Muslims? So Pakistan has a huge opportunity. And I hope basically the Pakistani leadership starts rethinking its strategy for the Pakistanis and for the Muslims before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them on the Day of Judgment,
And what actions can they take, right? They seem to be very locked and in a chokehold. Is there anything that they potentially could do or could have done differently to, as an ummah, so we can take ownership of all these Muslims?
A million things. Let alone set aside the geopolitical with India and this and that. 250 million people. If you make it productive, the Pakistani leadership. When would business thrive? When there's the rule of law. There's no rule of law in Pakistan. Somebody can come and take your land, come take your building. There's no encouragement for business. There's no encouragement for real high advanced education. There's some, but not as it should be. Look at China. You know what I'm saying? China have a problem with basically the youth. Like Pakistan might have more youth than China. So you need to understand they can be comparable. Like the Pakistanis could also graduate as much as engineers as China can if they build the right infrastructure, if they get people to become productive, if they invest in their nation, if they help people to become entrepreneurs. But see, the leadership in Pakistan just wants wealth to itself, and they'll sabotage anybody who builds a business, sabotage anybody who becomes creative and makes money. I mean, the Benazir's husband, his name is Mr. 5%, and I think he was promoted to 10% maybe a couple of decades ago. And I think right now people are telling me he's Mr. 20%. And I don't know what's next, right? Like, imagine you live in a country where people can come and take your business, say, look, you need to give me 20% of your business. Otherwise, we'll shut you down. This is Pakistan. So let's start there. Let's start with basically some justice and law and order within the country to make the country stronger. Because see, if you don't have strength, if you don't have economic strength, if you don't have strength, if you don't have technology and sciences and so forth, forget about basic geopolitics being able to compete on the world stage. The world stage is not for the weak, and Pakistan is weak. It's weak by decision of its leadership. And it's weak because a Muslim public in Pakistan, the 250 million, are not saying no to their leadership.
Well, Sheikh, Jazakumullah khairan. And every single week, there's
Allah
always
bless
something
you.
that we learn together. So everybody, guys, comment, like, subscribe. People have asked us to speak about India and Pakistan. We've spoken about it. We're going to continue to speak about these topics. And comment down below what else you guys want us to speak about. And we will continue, inshallah ta'ala, week over week. And we'll see you on the next episode of i3 Pulse. Assalamu alaikum.